We have here some very important items for my plans. Now, let's just see. First of all, bathing suit. Okay? And beach towel. And of course, sunblock. Yeah, see, these are important because I plan to beat the heat tomorrow afternoon by the water. Well, we do know that sometimes our plans don't always work that way, do they? And usually when our plans are changed, it's around here, it's usually the weather. Sort of like if you have an outdoor plan something outdoors in the summer, what's it very likely to do? Rain. And we know our plans have to be put on hold. Well, in our gospel, if we can just remember, sometimes when we had to put our plans on hold, we can just understand better what was happening to Jesus and the apostles in the gospel we just heard. Now, Jesus had sent the apostles out to preach the good news of God. And now they were back, and Jesus said, look, let's get away from here to a deserted place, an abandoned place, and rest for a while from all your work. And that sounded good. Maybe Jesus knew of just the place he wanted to go. So they all jumped in the boat and off they went. Looks good. But the crowds of people that had been following Jesus knew about it and got there before Jesus and the apostles did. Well, when Jesus saw all those great crowds of people, he knew that they desperately needed to hear the good news of God's love and God's care. And so that's what he did. He shared with them the message of God's love because he felt pity for them. He said, they're like sheep without a shepherd. I have to do this. Well, the gospel doesn't really describe that deserted place where the crowds found Jesus and the apostles, does it? Well, it could be any place where people felt abandoned and deserted. Could be anywhere where people were abandoned and deserted. And when Jesus saw them, he knew they needed that message. And so he shared that message with them. And because of his persistence, because he wasn't thinking of himself, but about the people, they had a chance to reconnect with God. Because sometimes when life is very difficult and life is too much, we turn away from God. And now they had a chance, a second chance, for a relationship with God and with others. Now, when we feel at times perhaps isolated, Jesus can reconnect us in some very surprising ways. And maybe an example will help. Steve is a man in his 40s. And we don't know exactly what happened between Steve and his family, but he rejected them and has been in an abandoned place in life since then. Well, some time back, he discovered the bicycle group of people that go out on bicycles 3 times a week at the Brady Faith Center. And now he doesn't feel isolated anymore and seems to be doing very well. Well, his mother is a very caring and persistent person because she looked for him for 14 years and finally found him on Facebook with a group of bicycle riders at the Brady Center. And she called to say how happy she was to find him. And she said, I could tell just by the look on his face. I could tell by his eyes that he was with good people that cared about him. And now she knows that he's not isolated anymore, that he is with people who are good and caring for him. God can reconnect us in some surprising ways. Now, notice the gospel doesn't tell us very much about how the apostles felt about having their nice time of rest and relaxation after all their work all of a sudden evaporates. Change of plans. And perhaps we've experienced that same thing, haven't we, huh? And we know how we feel when things just don't work out. Well, maybe in a very gentle way, Jesus was telling the apostles, look, my grace is enough for you no matter what you face. My grace is enough no matter what you're asked to do. Now we've heard the saying, God only gives us as much as we can handle, right? God only gives us as much as we can handle. Well, that's very good, very true, but sometimes God does give us more than we can handle. But the lesson of God is the same as Jesus was telling the apostles. My grace is enough to get you through. I know of a young mother of a family, and she just seems to live in a hospital room. In an era where we know that hospital visits are brief, sometimes a matter of hours, isn't it? Yet she seems to always be there because her immune system is so weak. And this week she said to me, yes, this is more than I can handle. But I do believe that God is walking with me through all this. And that's our lesson. God is with us no matter what we face. God's grace is enough for us no matter how hard life gets for us. So as we go on now to share in the body and the blood of Christ, let's ask God's help for us to remember that. To remember that God's grace is enough for us, no matter what we're asked to do.